TGIFF, or Thank God It's Still Friday. If you want to get involved with a group of people that are concerned about these issues, we're concerned about the health and welfare of our countrymen. If you want to get your health back, if you have a child that's sick, if you have a brother, a sister, a mother, a grandma, get in touch with teamglidden.ca. I'm going to give you a number. Go get a pen. 1-800-705-6892. Once again, that's 1-800-705-6892. Now, we've just been having a fantastic interview with Sean Buckley, defender of health freedom in Canada. But Sean can't do it by himself. He is counting on you, his countrymen, to get involved. All you got to do is go to these websites. All you got to do is download a petition, get people to sign it. Let's get their attention. Let's make an uproar. Let's make a noise. They've got to listen. If your freedom is worth a wooden nickel to you, let's get on board. NHPPA.org or charterofhealthfreedom.org. Now, before the break there, Sean, you were talking about a specific case. Would you like to get into that?
Yeah, it involves a company called True Hope Nutritional Support. And the company has actually a very interesting background. It was started by a property manager and an animal nutritionist, which is an unlikely pair to basically come up with what is, I think, hands down the most effective treatment in the world for bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, and it was just a double-blind clinical trial showing tremendous efficacy for ADHD. And what happened was that the property manager's wife had bipolar disorder, and she committed suicide. Like her, I think it was, mother and grandfather before her, runs in the family. And then two of the children of Mr. Stefan, they were suffering with bipolar disorder. His oldest daughter, Autumn, she was an adult, out of the house, married, had one child. And she was probably spending a third of each year involuntarily committed to the psych ward, because what would happen is she'd become absolutely delusional and suicidal. They would involuntarily commit her, put her on a new drug cocktail, and as soon as she could get out of the hospital without completely drooling over herself, they would let her out, but she would still need help eating and showering and simple things. And it would take, a period of time for her body to acclimatize, and then she'd have what is called a breakout, where your symptoms return and you're back in the hospital and rinse and repeat with a new drug cocktail. And one of his sons, Joseph, who had bipolar, he was still at home. He was in high school, but a big kid, roughly 200 pounds, all muscle. And his bipolar, he would rage. The doctor had him on lithium, and it just wasn't being effective. And finally, the other kids approached their dad and said, Dad, you've got to get Joseph out of the house because we're all just terrified that he's going to kill us. And, sometimes your heart's just broken. You have to vent. So he actually is just venting to this animal nutritionist who is just an acquaintance, and he's basically explaining what's happening with his family and how he's heartbroken. And the animal nutritionist said something that changed their lives. And he says, I know nothing about treating humans, but I know about animals. And what you're describing, this rage you're describing in Joseph, sounds so much like ear and tail biting syndrome that we see in pigs, where they're just in a rage. But when we see that in pigs, we know it's a nutritional deficiency. We supplement the feed with vitamins and minerals, and 100% of the time we extinguish the behavior. Well, the little light bulbs went off in their heads, and they thought, I wonder if there's a nutritional basis to bipolar disorder. So they start doing the research, and they basically come up with off-the-shelf products, 4 different products, and they give them to Joseph, and Joseph gets well. And then they end up, circumstances just conspired because Autumn was out of the hospital, but she was on 24-hour suicide watch. She lived in a different community than her father. But her husband phones Tony up and says, when I've been going to work, I've been dropping Autumn off at my parents', but they're exhausted because, she has to be watched 24 hours a day. can I drop her off at your place for a couple of weeks and just give everyone a break? And so that happened, and they put her on this protocol, and she got well. And then they did it with a schizophrenic lady in town, and she got well. And at that point, they decided we have to form a company to basically promote research into mental health issues. Now, eventually, they ended up making a product called the Empower Plus, because one of those off-the-shelf products varied too much from batch to batch, and people would waver. But there are now, I think, 25 basically publicly funded studies, peer-reviewed published studies on this product. But back in 2003, Health Canada told True Hope, you better stop selling this product. And True Hope said, are you kidding? If we stop selling it, people will die, because basically we get the worst of the worst, you know, that the medical system just can't treat. We get the people that trash psych wards. We get them well, and if we take that treatment away, some of them are going to commit suicide.
Or kill someone.
And psychiatrists, well, that's less of a worry, truly, with bipolar people. It tends to be self-harm, but if you look into the figures, it's quite staggering over time, the percentage that take their own lives.
I know a guy that just did that a year ago.
What's that?
Yeah, I know a guy that was bipolar, and I talked to him about longevity several times, and he actually, just last year here in the town I live, they found him swinging from the rafters in his truck shop. Sorry to interrupt. Go on.
Oh, no, and it's too common, unfortunately. Now, I know as a fact, because Health Canada charged the company, and I got, disclosure from them, that, before they decided to go after the company, doctors were writing to them, psychiatrists were writing to Health Canada saying, don't take this product away. I have patients that rely on it for their lives. And patients would write to Health Canada saying, don't take this away. I've done this drug cocktail and that drug cocktail, and I couldn't work, and I have my life back. Eventually what Health Canada did, the product it's a Canadian company, but the product is manufactured in the U.S., and Health Canada figured, we can stop it at the border. So they seized a couple of shipments coming across the border, and then they told Customs, start turning shipments away. There was an explosion within Canada of people calling Health Canada, calling the minister's office, who at the time was Anne McClellan out of Edmonton. There were so many calls that we know from their internal emails, they're dialoguing back and forth internally. Well, how do we get rid of these calls? So they came up with this brilliant thing called the 1-800 crisis line. They do this, public announcement. We know people are concerned about losing access to this product, and so you can call this line, and there's trained professionals on the end of this line to help you. As soon as you called the Minister's Office of Health Canada and mentioned True Hope or mentioned Empower Plus, they would hit a button. You were denied your right to speak to the minister or speak to the bureaucrats that were threatening you. Your call would be diverted to this crisis line. But these people on the crisis line took notes. There's almost 800 pages of people begging for their lives, right down to statements like, what are you going to do when I commit suicide? And I firmly believe there were suicides. At the criminal trial, I called a gentleman called Ron Lajeunesse, who he used to run all of Alberta's mental health programs for the government. But at the time of the Empower Plus problem, he was the president of the Alberta branch of the Canadian Mental Health Association. And the CMA had looked into this product to realize that it was effective. When Health Canada started turning shipments away, he held press conferences saying, there's going to be suicides. And then after there were suicides, he held press conferences saying there had been suicides. He told the court he went to one of the funerals of one of the CMA members who had committed suicide. And still the government didn't relent. It took about a year. In fact, the death toll was lower than we would have thought, because smuggling rings sprang up all across Canada. So basically you had law-abiding citizens conspiring together to, and it's shocking, to smuggle in illegal vitamins and minerals. But, when your family members' lives depend on it, you'll do stuff like that. And I'm being facetious, because isn't it ridiculous that when your life depends on a vitamin and mineral supplement, that's all it is, that actually Health Canada will say, no, our Food and Drug Act laws are more important than your life. And it took about a year before the minister would relent and allow the product to be imported without, border problems. And it was staggering. It's one of the most tragic things I've ever seen, where your life meant nothing. I mean, you can't even read these crisis line notes if you're a normal human being. It just tears you up too much. And that fell on deaf ears, which is, that went a long way to us basically requiring an ombudsman in the Charter of Health Freedom. Because if you think Health Canada actually cares about your safety, you are absolutely mistaken. They care about compliance with the law, and the two are not the same. It's funny, in that trial, there was a Health Canada inspector on the stand. And, and as a lawyer, you're only going to ask a question, really, if you think you know what the answer is going to be. And, I asked a question of this Health Canada inspector, something like, well, Health Canada's mandates, basically to keep us safe. It's to protect our health. And the inspector wouldn't agree with that. It was a real eye-opener for me.
Absolutely.
Which is why now I say, really, their mandate is to enforce compliance with the law. They view themselves as the police. They don't view themselves as there to protect you.
Well, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, and Mao Zedong would be proud. I mean, here we have this dictatorial, what do they call it, constitutional monarchy system. I still haven't figured out.
Well, I refer to us as an elected autocracy, actually, but, your term works also.
Yeah, well, but if anybody thinks that we have the freedom to make our own decisions, what they'll do is they'll turn honest, law-abiding citizens into criminals. And it's not just with health supplements. It's with farming. It's with gun ownership. It's everything. You think you're free in Canada? Try to build an addition on your house and just see what happens. We got a break coming up. We're going to come back and close this off with Sean Buckley. We're going to go to Karen, Joyce, and Dora. Thanks for hanging on. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden back after this. Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. We're going to give Sean Buckley time to make some closing remarks on what he thinks is the most important thing to focus on and what to do right now. And then we're going to take some calls. Sean, give us your closing remarks, please.
Mike, how much time do I have?
Oh, I'll give you, let's say there's 6 minutes in this segment. Go ahead.
Okay. So, one other thing we didn't touch on, but people really need to be aware of, is there's a couple of recent court decisions that basically prevent us from going to court to enforce our health rights. So I've told you about the True Hope case. They were charged criminally. Actually, the court acquitted them, finding that it was necessary for them to defy Health Canada. But aside from the criminal case, they had started a federal court action to basically seek a declaration that the seizure power was illegal, because they said to the court, listen, when you seize vital medication, we're talking stuff people rely on for serious health conditions, you have to do two things. First, you have to tell them you seized their medication, because Health Canada didn't, and you have to give people an opportunity to argue that they should get it back because their need outweighs the state's need. And we led all this evidence. I led evidence basically to show that Health Canada had caused deaths. And I don't have time to go into all of the evidence, but I had led a whole bunch of different pieces of evidence to show that Health Canada had caused deaths. And I invited the court to find as a fact that Health Canada had caused deaths, anticipating that then the court would declare this seizure unconstitutional. The court said, Mr. Buckley, True Hope and one of the recipients of the seized packages, who were the two parties, do not have the right to come in front of me and put all this evidence in front of me. The legal term is standing. So I'm going to exclude all of this evidence. I don't see any problem here. The law is perfectly fine. Go away. Oh, yes, but you have to pay the government's court fees, parties. Thank you very much for playing. It was also then, in the last 2 months, Regent RX had a product, I think it was called Libidus, which was basically a herbal erectile dysfunction product, so that people wouldn't have to take things like Cialis or Viagra, which have a very high risk profile. And Health Canada said, you have to recall this product because our lab analyzed it and we found sildenafil in it, which is the chemical active ingredients of Viagra. And the company withdrew and had independent labs analyze the product, and there was no spiking of it at all. There was no problem with the product. Basically, the company was asserting that Health Canada was completely negligent. They sued, and the court said, go away. Health Canada does not owe you a duty of care. And so it's just interesting that the courts seem to be closing our doors, both to get constitutional relief and even just to hold Health Canada accountable. Because when you take away a herbal product, that was a very popular product in Canada, you will force a certain number of people onto the chemical pharmaceuticals, and there will be health consequences.
Absolutely.
So we're losing our rights in court. Courts are only for the rich anyway, but we really need to become politically active because it's our only choice. So I just so urge your listeners to give the NHPPA your email address. Like I say, we're going to have a campaign against Bill C-17 in the next couple of weeks, and so that we can plug you in, and please become active in the Charter of Health Freedom movement.
What I'd like to do, Sean, is keep in touch with you, and we'll have you on this show every once in a while so you can update us with what's going on. We're going to keep pushing your website, and this is very important. Whether or not they actually listen, whether we had 1 million signatures on a petition is another thing, but at least we're going to show them that people are paying attention, and we are not happy.
Well, I really appreciate that, Mike. I mean, the only reason this is happening is because, the average person is allowing it to happen. If we've seen one thing in the last couple of years with, all these revolutions that are happening, regardless of whether they're ending well or not, they're, showing writ large that people do have power if they'll exercise it.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it's going to atrophy after a while. And what you're going to find is that if you lose your freedom, you don't get it back once that door is shut. Why don't you just go walking over into North Korea and start asking people what happens when you lose your freedom? And so this is very important. We've got to make our voices heard. Sean, we're going to let you go. I'm going to be in touch with you in the future here. Thank you very much for coming on the show and bringing this very important matter to the attention of the citizens of Canada and people worldwide. We're going to take your calls on the other side of this break. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Glidden, back after this. Mike Phillip back on Fire Your MD Now Radio with the Mission Impossible music going in the background, and I don't believe in an impossible mission. I've seen medical nutrition work in my friends and family, so we're going to call it Mission Possible. Now, this lady, Joyce in Alberta, has been hanging on for an hour and 17 minutes waiting to talk to me. Joyce, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. How you doing?
Oh, good. I've got you on speakerphone so my husband can hear also. I'm doing fine. I'm just very concerned about him because he's been on this diet with Dr. Wallach recommendations and the products since October. And I've tried to tweak it a little bit here and there just to get it more perfect. But, I feel like I'm not seeing improvement. I'm actually seeing deterioration in the fact that his muscles are slowing down more and more. I'm having to help him dress, help him get in and out of bed, turn in bed, and he's able to walk and everything. But it's gotten me concerned because I feel like I should be seeing improvement, not deterioration. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if I need to add something more. I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, you called in before.
Yes, I have. I've talked with you twice before.
Yeah, I remember you.
Go up to Edmonton. I actually didn't get to Edmonton, but I got to talk to Dr. Wallach down in Calgary.
Oh, good.
But I only was able to get one question answered, because he had such a large group there.
Yeah, Dr. Wallach sometimes he'll has a tendency to cut people off and not really give them too much of a full answer. And he's amazing, but he's been doing this so long that sometimes I think he gets a little tired and wants to go to bed after he's done giving lectures every night.
Understand.
Yeah. So, okay, Joyce, I'm going to suggest a couple things here, okay?
Okay.
Now I'm going to say this. It took probably, like, we saw results right away, but I've been doing this 3 years, and I wasn't completely out of the weeds for a long time.
Oh.
And it took me a long time to where I could even fully absorb all of the osteo effects. For one, I had a hell of a time keeping it in me and not just going straight through like a rocket sled. So, but through using different products and experimentation, like my wife, I'm always talking about what happened with her. With her, it was bone and joint issues. She could hardly walk. When we got her on the healthy bone and joint pack, she experienced probably a 40% reduction in pain, which really helped her mobility at the time. But when we added two things, it just took her right over the top, and that was the HGH Youth Complex.
HGH Youth Complex?
HGH Youth Complex. I want your husband to take 8 of them before he goes to bed. Okay? And they're just stacked amino acids. And the other one is the brand new product, the Immortalium.
Okay.
And he's going to take about 6 of those a day. Okay, and what we want is to see some improvement. Now, has he experienced any numbness or tingling or anything like that in his extremities?
No.
Okay. We want to look for some, we
read Dr. Wallach's book, and in there he said that cinnamon, he didn't recommend it. He said that 50% of the people don't benefit from it, and it actually speeds up the disease. So my husband made the decision to get off of it, and he's off of it now. And I never saw an improvement when he went on, and I never saw an increase in symptoms when he went off. So I think he was in that 50% that wouldn't have helped him anyway.
Well, he was helping a drug company make money. That was what he was doing. Yeah. So, and let me ask you this. You're doing the eggs, right?
Definitely.
How are you preparing them? Are you just putting them in a shake, or are you cooking them at all?
No, they're totally raw. I'm using just the yolks, though, because otherwise it's too filling. I make them into an eggnog in the morning. I just add a little cinnamon, vanilla, and stevia, and a little bit of milk. Actually, mostly almond milk. And he seems to like that. And
okay, let's stop right there. Stop right there. I want you to get rid of the almond milk.
Oh.
Get rid of the almond milk. Almonds contain phytates, and a phytate will grab a vitamin or a mineral and just suck it right through your body so that it doesn't absorb. Other things that contain, other things that contain phytates is rice, spinach. Just go online and look up what has phytates. Most nuts have phytates. So that right there, let's get rid of that just to be sure.
How do you spell that?
Phytate, Phytaate, I believe.
Phytaate, okay.
Yeah, that's off the top of my head, and I'm not the best speller in the world, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, the other thing with the eggs, here's the deal. You want them a bit cooked, okay?
Oh.
Yeah. Now what I do is I boil them for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. What you want that yolk cooked, but not hard. You don't want it turning a dull yellow with graying around the edges. You know what can happen? You know how it looks when you boil an egg too long and the yolk is hard?
Yes.
Yeah, you want it soft but cooked. And if you do that, most likely you'll be able to pull that yolk out of there and still throw it in the drink and still be able to blend it up. But yeah, the magic is in the right amount of cooking it. oddly enough. And I apologize for not bringing that up sooner. But let's try that. Let's try let's go with the HGH Youth Complex, the Immortalium. 8 HGH before he goes to bed, 6 Immortalium a day. And you want to either soft scramble those eggs. Okay, so that they're a little bit slimy, lots of salt, and lots of butter in there. That's going to help as well. And let's do that. I eat about 10 eggs a day. And the reason I do that is because, well, I can't tell you because Mrs. Phillip would be mad at me. But it works. Anyhow, yeah.
I would have thought the raw eggs would have been better, but I guess it's got to be cooked a little. Yeah,
it's got to be cooked a little, and keep phoning in, keep doing what you're doing. I don't know your husband or you. You didn't make it up to Edmonton, but I actually, doing this show, I tend to think about the people calling in, and I really would like to see you overcome this and have a good story. But how old is your husband?
He's 63.
Yeah, see, so there's a lot of years there of doing things that were gumming up the works, and it's not going to be overnight, I'm afraid it's looking like, but you never know. Adding a few things here might just do the trick, and I'm really looking forward to the day when you call me back doing cartwheels because he's getting better.
He's gone to an environmental doctor, and he went through some blood tests. The blood tests show that he has Agent Orange. He had a chemical name for it, but it's actually Agent Orange in his system. And he was wondering if that was what caused it. And he's got kind of on a detox diet here because he used to be in the Navy in the U.S. off the shores of Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And we're thinking the Navy, that's where he picked it up from.
That's a strong possibility. And you know what else? The province of Ontario was actually spraying Agent Orange as a foliage killer along the highways. It came out just a little while ago. So I mean, you know, they've got stockpiles of this stuff and they got to use it for something and they don't give a damn about us. But I'm happy to report that Dr. Wallach proved with net negative toxicity that a nutrified body will weed out the toxins and discard them because you've got natural systems in place to do that. Just like the Earth is a giant settling system, we are made by our Creator, patterned after the same things. So, you know, it's kind of like when things are moving in a river or a stream, it tends to clean itself up. But if you look at a stagnant pond where nothing's moving, you've got all kinds of microbial growth, and it stinks. And go on YouTube and check it out. They're put in longevity blood tests, and they'll show you blood tests on people, 26-year-old girl smoker before, and then 2 weeks after taking longevity, and you can see the platelets rounded out and stacked neatly and no crud floating between the blood. So I want you to take those recommendations. Joyce, keep calling me. We like hearing from you, and we're going to let you go. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging on. Now we're going to go over to Dora in California. She's got some questions about blood pressure. Dora, are you there, and can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here, and I can hear you.
Excellent. What would you like to talk about here? You got some blood pressure issues?
Yeah. I talked to Dr. Glidden a couple of times, maybe about a week ago, and when I first started, this blood pressure was up to 177/100, but it's come down quite a bit. But I'm taking the calcium. He told me to take a tablespoon 4 times a day and a tablespoon before bed. And then they gave me this blood pressure pill called lisinopril and 10 milligrams. And I'm taking that and the calcium. And I want to get off that blood pressure pill. And I want to ask your opinion when I can do that.
Okay, well, I can't diagnose that over the phone in a 5-minute conversation, but what you can do is you can talk to your pharmacist, okay, and explain to your pharmacist that you've been getting good results with another thing that you're doing, and that you would like to wean yourself off the blood pressure medication. With the calcium.
I've never taken it before. 2 weeks or so ago was the first time I've taken blood pressure medicine. And I don't take any other kind of medicine.
Yeah, well, and you're lucky that way, because a lot of times what happens with blood pressure medications is that you'll end up on a bunch of other stuff to stop side effects. But here's the thing. Drugs don't get rid of the underlying cause of disease. Okay? You know what I mean? The drug just overrides a naturally occurring system. And your body's in the same state, except that, you know, you've got a drug running through you now, and so it's got more to deal with. And me and my wife, she had stage 1 hypertension. Her blood pressure was quite high. She was getting dizzy spells and whatnot. We were able to clear that up in 2 days by doubling up on the osteo effects. So talk to your pharmacist, explain the situation. Dora, we're going to let you go. And then after this break, we're going to go over to Karen in Wisconsin, another trooper hanging on for just about an hour and a half. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden, back after this. Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. Gotta love those old Van Halen songs. I was a big Eddie Van Halen fan. In fact, I actually liked their stuff better when they got Sammy Hagar. And a lot of Van Halen fans out there would probably throw stuff at me if I said that in front of them. But back to the show. Karen in Wisconsin, you've been hanging on forever. James in Virginia, hang on. We're going to try and get to you before the show ends. Karen, how are you doing? I'm seeing stomach issues with a 7-year-old. What's going on, Karen?
Yeah, she's almost 8. She has already had a colonoscopy. She's had an endoscopy. Is that what you call it? She's done a barium drink X-ray. They found she has no polyps. She's lactose intolerant, or what they say, but she's on a ton of medication. Okay, 2 of them are reflux medication. I don't know how to pronounce it. Omeprazole.
Yeah, it's not important right now, but okay. So she's got bad stomach acid problems, acid reflux. How did you hear about this show? Are you familiar with what we do, Karen?
Yeah, my friend in Milwaukee told me about this, and so I decided to talk to somebody because the doctors want to up her meds, and she's going to turn 8 in a month. And they've got her on all kinds of medications and want to up her meds.
Yeah, it's their only trick. More drugs. And the fact is, they have the whole concept of acid reflux disease ass backwards. Well, how do you know that, Mike Phillip? Well, I'm going to tell you. I had such bad acid reflux for years and years and years. I was just at the point of going to prescription acid reflux medications. I had to have a box of extra strength Zantac in my truck at all times. Now, I was also, interestingly enough, lactose intolerant, and I have neither of those problems anymore, and I'm going to tell you how I did it.
Wow.
Yeah, if you go to fireyourmdnow.com, fireyourmdnow.com, scroll down and on the right-hand side, you're going to see a big blue button that says log in. Just put in your email address, and they're going to send you a list of 10 foods that you have got to get your little girl and your family and yourself off of yesterday. Okay, gluten is a big one. Your daughter has a compromised small intestine. She has bad stomach acids. Okay, now it's not that her stomach acids are too strong. It's that they're too weak. Okay, and all these antacids are going to make the problem worse and worse, and it's going to turn into ulcers and all kinds of stuff. So what I want you to do is I want you to get your daughter on one healthy digestum pack. Okay? How much does she weigh?
68 tons.
Yeah. So you're just going to give her 1 scoop of Beyond Tangy Tangerine and 1 ounce of OsteoFX every day and 3 EF8 Plus every day. Now, stomach acids need calcium and sodium, so you're going to have to start giving her salt and butter with every meal. And then I want you to register with that website, fireyourmdnow.com. Okay, and they're going to send you that 10 bad food list, and also they're going to send you a link to a live webinar on YouTube about gluten and why it is gumming up your daughter's digestive system. And if you do this and follow it, listen to the show, and you're going to hear other people call in with the same problems, and take it from a guy who has cleared it up his own self using Dr. Wallach's work. And your daughter will get out of the weeds, and I'm looking forward to hearing you call back about that. I hear the music, and that means our show for today is over. Thanks for listening, and Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden, signing off. God bless Canada, God bless America, and God bless you.